This video is brought to you by Jackspania Racing. Use the code you see on screen to get a discount on their website. Link is in the description. Now let's go ahead and get started with this video. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to part 15 of K-swapping the Mazda B2300. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to say a huge shout out to Jackspania for taking a chance and helping me with this K-swap build. It is greatly appreciated, especially when companies want to donate to a build that I'm doing. It helps me financially so much, and I am super appreciative. If you guys want to help support this, you could definitely check the links in the description. Use the discount code and go buy something from them and show your support as well. I've been buying products from them for a while, and I love the products that they have. They never give me an issue. And if there is ever any problem, you can contact them. They're quick to respond, so I greatly appreciate that about them as well. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. So what we have here is the 38mm wastegate from Jackspania and also a blow-off valve. Now this isn't the genuine HKS, so it's not going to function exactly like an HKS, but it will work for the time being. And these are what I call the get it going parts. I need this to get it going, and I definitely need this. I actually have never had a problem with the wastegate, so this will probably stay on there until I switch it to like a V-band style, which will be coming in the future with a different manifold that Jackspania is going to be releasing. So I'll be running a tubular manifold and a ball bearing turbo donated by Jackspania in the future. We're going to see how this max peating one does with this log manifold first, of course, because it is a cheaper option, but Jackspania does have a high quality one coming out. So when that happens, there will definitely be a video for sure. But I'm going to be putting this one on. One thing to make a note of real quick, this fire ring right here, super important. They need to go in like this before install. And obviously these metal gaskets are really nice. These ones are what I prefer to use because they don't give issues like the cheapo ones. So definitely want that on there, because if not, exhaust is going to get past here and it's not going to build up very much boost at all, and it'll always be coming out of the dump tube. So you want that fire ring there. Unless of course you don't, then go ahead and take it out. You can have this part recirculated, but it won't build boost very fast, so keep that in mind. So yeah, it's a really nice product. I am probably going to take one of the springs out. I got to see what the spring rate is again. I'm trying to push a low boost on this setup for the time being, for whenever we get it going. Like I said, we have to get it all going first, then we can work all of those other issues out. And for the people who were going to tell me that there is a Mazda B2300 that is K24 swapped, I already know, but it's actually a Mazda B2500, so it is a little different. But seriously, the guys over there in Puerto Rico doing awesome work. The build looks great. They got a K24 swapped Mazda B2500, and it has AC and all that. So of course it's nicer than mine. I don't have the kind of money that they have sunk into that thing. It has a fuel tech system, a wiring and dash display and all kinds of stuff. Mine will be a little bit different, but to each their own. That thing is super nice. I'm not going to knock it, but please guys, you can stop inboxing me telling me. I already know. Really good job they did on it. But we've got this going in here in a minute. It came with all the hardware, as you see right here, so that's great. I won't have to get anything else. In a future upcoming video, I will be putting the steel clutch line on. This is a steel braided clutch line, and showing you how to get all of this apart, so that way we can run a steel braided clutch line with the factory clutch master cylinder and then the RX-8 slave cylinder. Also gonna have my buddy weld this up for me. Instead of going a V-band, which they sent me the wrong V-band, but they refunded the money, so they said I could keep this. I was like, cool. So I went ahead and chopped it. We're gonna go ahead and get that welded directly up to the adapter, since I know the exact area I want it, and then we'll just bolt the adapter on and everything will be good to go. So we are making some serious progress. Got the drive shaft installed right now. I'll go over that towards the end of this video, but for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and get all of this stuff installed. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here. But I'm gonna go ahead and get to it, so here we go. Okay, sorry for all the noise in the background. That fan is pretty loud, but it gets really hot in here if I don't have that fan going. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the turbo and manifold off the engine, get the manifold over to the workbench, and then I can show you a little bit more. Okay, Well, I don't have this thing fully bolted together. It was just for mocking up, but when I go to put this back together, it'll be all the right way. We're just gonna go ahead and remove the turbo off here. It'll make it a little easier. Okay, so this is how the manifold sits on the engine. Now, one thing to make a note of when buying these manifolds is that this bolt hole, it is always on the bottom for the K-series like this. So when I bought this, it was originally pictured like this, and that's actually what I was looking for. I was going for something like this where the turbo would sit on bottom so I could keep my AC stuff. But it ended up being like this, which is fine. I can work with this. But right here I have a block off for right now. We're gonna go ahead and take that block off of here, and then that's where the wastegate's gonna be going. Now, one of the things with these manifolds is you might have to do some porting to get them at 38 millimeters. This one is already fine, and since I'm not going to be running a lot of boost on this manifold, this will be fine for how much I'm running, anywhere from 4 to 7 psi, so this will be okay. Before I put this on like this, I do need to pull this apart and take out the other spring, so it's only a 7 psi spring, because I don't plan on running a lot of boost. So it's a really simple task. So using a 5 Allen wrench, I'm basically just going to apply pressure while I remove it. Be very careful when doing this. It has a lot of pressure pushing up on it, so try not to lose the bolts like I just did. As you can see, we have the 2 springs here. We've got a big one and a small one. Now this big one right here, I think is the 13 psi spring, and the smaller one is going to be the 7 psi spring. So I'm going to go ahead and set that in there. Now, one thing about these, you want to make sure that this diaphragm is not going to be an issue. So you want to make sure it's actually in there the way it's supposed to be, because whenever you go to put it back together, if it's not, it'll pinch it, and then you will have wastegate issues. It's not from them being cheap, it's just from when you put it back together, you weren't paying attention. Alright, well, once it's all back in there like that, we can go ahead and reassemble this. And it's a lot easier to push down now. Now that we've got it all back together and everything's tightened down, we're going to test it. And it's working. So we're going to go ahead and put the firing in. We can't forget that. Then we've got the metal gasket here. Now I'm going to go ahead and run it just like this. Go ahead and put the bolts in. Okay, got it all nice and tightened down with an Allen wrench, and it's basically ready to install back into the truck. But before we do that, I do need to put the fittings on here. It's pretty simple. Came with the fittings, we're just gonna plumb them in, and we're gonna run one of them to the wastegate, and the other one will just be left open for now. We'll go ahead and do that. Okay, got it all bolted together with all the gaskets in the place they need to be. Now I still have to get the dump tube for here, but that's no big deal. Also, I wanted to show you this nipple right here, which is on the bottom side. That will be running directly to the turbo housing right here. If you were running a boost controller, you would run this down there and have the electronic boost controller set up to the top one as well. But we're not running that, we're just running gate pressure, which would just be from this nipple to this lower one here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it installed back on the truck. All right, so there it is, all bolted on. I got all the bolts in, and the dump tube will run pretty much straight down, kind of a little at an angle that way, or I might recirc into the exhaust like I usually do. Either way, I don't think I really care too much on this particular build. On this bottom nipple here, it'll run up to this one. I tried to connect it, but I don't have enough line, so I have to make some more. But not too big of a deal. I'm only a few inches short. But yeah, this side is all done. I'm still waiting on the oil feed and return line. Once that comes in, I'll just throw those on, run the oil feed line from here to the oil pressure sensor right here, and then the drain will run right down to the oil pan, drill a hole, weld in a bung, and that'll be done. But yeah, definitely making progress. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the blow-off valve on the driver's side. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the little rubber seal it came with in its little groove. It doesn't fully seat in there all the way until we put the blow-off valve on. We've got the blow-off valve and the C-clip in its place. I'm just gonna basically go ahead and set it in there, push down, and then set the C-clip. Now that we've got the snap ring in there all the way, it's nice and sealed. I can turn this whichever direction I need to. So I'm gonna go ahead, reinstall it, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, there it is installed. We have very little clearance, but it's up there and it's not touching, so this will be perfectly fine. We can always adjust this later and figure a better solution out for the blow-off valve, but I think it'll be okay. We're gonna have the vacuum line right here, ran straight up to the intake, so that way we can have vacuum source so the blow-off valve opens. So I still have to get two 2.5 inch T-bolt clamps here and one 2.5 inch T-bolt clamp here. So I'm still missing 3 clamps, but definitely making progress. So yeah, that's basically it for the blow-off valve and wastegate install. Now I'm gonna go over and show you underneath the truck at the drive shaft and go over what's going on down there. Okay, as for the drive shaft, I did go ahead and use the factory drive shaft from the rear diff all the way up to the front side, and at the front side we chopped it off and put the RX-8 yoke stuff on this side. Now this is not perfection. This will not be the final result. It's probably not balanced. We haven't taken it to get balanced. I know the risks of running it unbalanced. I don't plan on driving very far with this drive shaft the way it is. I'm going to try to take it up to 30 miles an hour. If the vibrations are too bad, obviously I will stop. I won't drive it any further, but this will be a temporary mock-up. I still need it about a 1/2 inch shorter overall length, because whenever it sets on the ground, it pulls out the yoke a little bit because it's a slip yoke. It'll pull it out just a hair for suspension travel. So whenever I hit a bump, it'll go in and then it'll go out. So we need to have the proper length there. It won't leak the way it is right now, but it is going to work for moving it and keeping the fluid in the transmission, because I cannot start this truck until I put fluid in this transmission. We don't want to start the transmission dry. It could cause big problems. So this is just temporary, but it seems like it will work. And once I get to a proper drive shaft shop, I can say, hey, make me this just a 1/2 inch longer, and they'll make this exact thing but brand new. So that's my goal on that. It is RX-8 yoke. We cut it off and welded it to the factory Mazda B2300 drive shaft. A huge shout out to my friend Cheery. He went ahead and welded it all up. He has some pretty strong welds, so they should last, at least for light driving. And if it holds, I will do a massive burnout with this drive shaft because you guys deserve it. But yeah, it's on the factory bolt right here. As you can see, the factory bolt hole for the RX-8 transmission just goes right up to that factory bolt hole in the middle, and it just fit pretty good. So I'm pretty impressed with how this thing's turning out for sure. But yeah, we're definitely making progress. Still waiting on the oil feed and return line for the turbo, and then 3 or 4 couplers. Then we should be golden. I will have the downpipe, like I said, just kind of running straight down for the time being. Welded up just like this. And I know a lot of you probably won't approve of that method, but you're not funding my build, and this stuff is not cheap to do, so I am just doing what I can to get it going. A lot of the method you see here is my get it going method, then each and every little thing can be perfected later on. But I'm super happy we got the wastegate on and the blow-off valve, so again, huge shout out to Jackspania for providing quality parts. Can't wait to get this thing fired up and do a fat nasty burnout for you guys. It's gonna be so great, and get to hear that turbo spooling up and all that good stuff. But we still have to get the shifter from Sinformant. He still has it, so right now I kind of just have a hole right there in the floor. But once we get the shifter installed, then I can put the mount brackets on as well. I also welded in a solid piece of steel that runs directly to the frame, and it bolts to the engine, so that way it's extra solid. It's very similar to how this one is set up on this side, and I'm thinking about doing it over here as well to that bolt hole or that one, just running it just for extra support, and it'll be really solid. But we got radiator hose to get, still need a K-Pro and a few other things, but we're probably like 5 or 6 parts away from this thing firing up and running and driving. So that is awesome, and huge shout out to everyone hitting that like button and sharing the videos. I know this hasn't been going down the road, and I know everyone's waiting for that. I'm sorry this build's taking much longer than I anticipated, but it will be extra awesome when it's done. So thanks for being patient with me, and it's been hard for me too. Normally I knock builds out overnight, as most of you guys know, but it'll definitely pay off in the end. So definitely stay tuned. Please check the links in the description for Jackspania and go over there and buy something. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps support the channel, and yeah, we'll definitely have more coming soon. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off here, get this edited and out for you guys. So I'll see you in the next video. And as I like to say, God bless, stay safe, stay awesome.